Welcome to Redeeming Thunder. My name is Erica, and I'm here to give you some insightful advice that I received regarding becoming a Deborah. Now, becoming a Deborah has to do with Proverbs 31 wife. And this advice I received from Tomi Arayomi. He has a prophetic voice, and he said something that makes a lot of sense. And let's say you're in the position where you want Yahusha to use you. That you want to have a calling. You want to have an assignment. You want to have a ministry. Your dream was to be, speaking to the nations. Your dream was to, have a family even. Let's just start with that. Have a family. Have a husband. In general, just that in itself is an achievement. Okay, but let's say the situation is where you keep having to get divorced and you keep having to find someone new, or it's always just boyfriend and it doesn't go to putting a ring on it. Okay. I am surrounded by many ancestors, friends that are not married and want to be married. And they're trying to figure out what is it that I'm doing that they're not doing. The problem is when I start to say what I'm doing, they don't want to copy what I'm doing. To have a relationship, successful relationship, they don't want to copy because it's has a lot to do with being humble. It has a lot to do with being non-resentful. It has a lot to do with being non-vengeful. Has a lot to do with being accountable. And a lot of the time, when they tell me their stories, they're like, well, it was his fault. He did this and he did that and he cheated, right? And it's a monumental, colossal fault that they're saying that he did. Okay? But then I already know these people. I already know their personality. And they have a type of personality that is very difficult. Okay, when I'm saying difficult, it might resonate or it might not. But you might know someone that has this. They're very argumentative and have to be right. And they're not apologetic. Okay? So how he was explaining it was pebbles. Maybe his was monumental mountain of heartbreak. But what women do, it's more sly. It's like pebbles. And what we think is minuscule. Okay, let me tell you what we would think is minuscule. Let's say there are toxic family members and your husband already explained to you that he cannot spend time with those family members, or wants to be in that same reunion with them because they are incredibly toxic, as in defaming of character, lies, drama, in their own. Forget about them defaming character on him or me. They're very over dramatic, and they have to be center focused, and they have to be the queen, the princess, like almost worshiping the person. And if you don't, it doesn't revolve around them, then they literally are throwing stuff all over the house and extremely toxic, yelling and screaming. Okay? In all honesty, I fell into that category of thinking family's family and we're just supposed to spend time with family and you're supposed to stick together no matter what. It was only when I was forced to take this counseling class about 7 years ago that I really opened my eyes that just because it's family doesn't mean you get to spend time with family. And sometimes family members do try to destroy your relationships. Like some of these people that I was dating, probably 4 of them, they could not be with me because of the people I hung out with, or the person I hung out with that was a family member. They could not continue the relationship with me because I kept caring so much and trying to help the other person get ahead. Yet they could see it from a mile away that that person was bitter and was always going to try to destroy. And it came in generations. You know, in my ancestors, there is an auntie that I have that did the same thing, destroyed all of the relationships around, and they wanted to be married and they couldn't because that auntie was just jealous and bitter that she was not married. So one would be like, okay, so let's just not gotta choose your relationship, your marriage, right? And you can't hang out with that particular person because they are causing a scene. They're explosive. They're damaging. They're trying to ruin you. They'll go off. It'll be your important day. Let's say it's your wedding rehearsal. So everybody's busy practicing, doing their own little, walkthrough of the wedding rehearsal. So it's about you and your future spouse. And that particular person will choose the day to go on a nice walk, but get lost. And then the whole time, I'm lost. Can you help me? All because you're trying to get married and work on your marriage, work on your vows on that day. Do you understand? It'll be that particular day that they'll just decided, and then because you're so caring, I have to drop everything, and everybody's waiting for you for hours to come back. All of the bridesmaids, all the groomsmen, they're all waiting because the bride left to go find the individual that took off, grumpy and upset that something's launching for you, but it's not launching for them. That would be the reason. No other reason other than that. Okay. That's not really the right start of a relationship when you're bringing the entire clan into your relationship and decision making. Let's say you didn't ask your future spouse, hey, can I take a break from this? You just said, I'm dropping everything. She's important to me. I gotta leave. And it's like she could have went and knocked on a neighbor's house and then been like, even called the police and then given the address and gotten a ride back. Because the rehearsal was just that one day. I don't know if that sounds ruthless, but I don't think it does. When this person did those types of sabotages very frequently. But sometimes you don't want to open your eyes. Okay, so these are pebbles. These are little pebbles. And you think, oh, I don't know why it didn't work out. But these are pebbles. And so I did pebbles by surrounding myself with toxic enablers. I did pebbles to my own relationships in the past and did not allow a true bonding, because every single time I wanted to include those individuals that did not know how to behave in a mature manner. Okay, so that's an example. You could be in one state and moving to another state, and your husband's trying to move you out because your family is toxic. They're very invasive. They have their own comments about your relationship. You're trying to resolve little tiny things that could be resolved between you two, but this is pebbles. You're speaking to your family members about your marriage problems instead of your spouse. Those are pebbles. Okay, you think it's not a big deal. It doesn't matter. Yes, it does. Or you say, I don't want you. She wants to have a party, but he doesn't want to have a party at the house because maybe they stay too long, and or maybe the sisters are very sensualized and are then flirting with your husband, and your husband's trying to set that boundary and be like, no. But there you are, inviting your same friends that are doing that, or your sisters, to that party, and it's causing this very uncomfortable situation where he feels like he has to stay upstairs. He feels like he has to stay in another bedroom the entire time, and he can't even enjoy his own time at his house. Or it could be your family is always over. I'm not saying your family can never be over, but they always come over uninvited, just surprise visits. And your husband wanted to spend time with you and your children together. You guys wanted to go out to dinner, already planned, but there they go, ding dong, and they show up, and you're like, yeah, come on, welcome, and they stay there for hours and hours. So now you're busy making extra food that you didn't plan, but you're loving and you're caring, so you do it, and you're trying to tend to everyone because you're like, this is family. But it's family functions that are not organized, but let's say your husband likes a lot of organized and order, and you're not catering to what he needs. Okay, let's say another example, he's going away from the path, from a connection with Yahusha, personal relationship, and he's decided not to go to church anymore or really attend. And the way you're trying to save that relationship is by snarly comments that he's a sinful man, and then he's also involved in his own activities. He likes to play a lot of sports on the weekend, and instead of going to go watch him play and cheer your own husband on, you're busy at church praying for the relationship. And I'm not saying don't go to church when your marriage is in a rocky place. I'm saying you're going to church like 5 days a week. You're gone the entire weekend because you're busy pleading to Yahusha to save your marriage. But he can't save it when you're not taking action and even spending time with the person. Those are called pebbles. Okay? Those are pebbles. These are just examples that I could think of just off the top of my head. Let's say you're trying to raise your children and instruct them a certain way with your husband, and then your mother thinks it's too strict. But it's like you guys lived an immensely way strict lifestyle in your childhood, and it's nothing remotely to what that was going on. And yet she keeps mentioning, this is the way he is, and you're like, no, he's not though. He just speaks in a stern voice, and if you let that kid explode and throw a tantrum, then they'll always do it, Anyways, and then there's this shunning, this downcast that they have on your husband, and you stay quiet and you don't ever defend him. So they're just bashing you. Those are called pebbles. I know that it could be the other way with the evil mother-in-law. I know, but right now we're talking about how to become Deborahs. Right now we're talking about how to be a Proverbs 31 wife. She's a businesswoman. Did you know that? And she makes her own clothes. And she honors her husband. She respects her husband. And I'm not saying that I'm 100% really perfect at that role. I feel like this is a journey, But it's just, instead of being jealous of your friend that is married, because we get a lot of attacks of people attacking us because we're together, okay? Instead of being jealous of the couple that have been able to stay together, you need to look within and be like, how can I make a relationship work out without, how can I make it work? What is within me that can change? Okay, because there's been issues where I only heard one side of the story. Oh, he was abusive. Oh, he was, shoving me and this and that. Well, obviously, don't stay with someone that's very physically abusive, okay? But what I didn't hear was she was abusive too. She was throwing his books out the window. She was, punching back. I didn't hear that side until years later. And then I had to fight it myself by hearing this ugly attitude. And it was like, you know what guys really don't like? Is when they see you treating your children very, very bad. Extremely, like trash or like slaves. They cannot bring you to their mother to introduce you to their mother when you are that type of character, when you have that type of character. And they're like, well, he didn't want to come. He didn't want to, marry me. He said he was going to marry me. He never, Figure out why. Why are you engaged for more than 4 years? Why are you engaged for so long? And you're still engaged? I wouldn't consider engaged anymore. Usually a man knows that he wants to marry you at 6 months. I wouldn't recommend marrying anybody. I made that mistake and married someone after knowing them for 3 years, thinking that was enough. And they had a narcissistic personality, and it didn't work out. And I tried to tell my entire family, that I need to get out of here. I can't be in this relationship, and they would not help me. There's this facade that the Hispanic culture should not get divorced ever. And then they kind of shun you and outcast you. And at that time, my hours being cut in the summer, so I didn't work at all. So it was very hard for me to be financially make it on my own. I just had to muster through it until finally things changed and I was getting those hours and I was able to leave that relationship that was incredibly toxic. And what happened is, when you don't have a really good example to live by, to learn by, you end up marrying someone just like what you really didn't want. It's like there's this radar that you attract. It's horrible. So that's why it's important to heal. Okay, so that counseling class that I had to take, all of us had to take it. And it was super annoying. It was a lot of talk, bringing up about the past. And there was a lot of fault on the man, okay? But it didn't matter. They were always like, but what did you do? And it was so annoying. It made a lot of women angry in that class. They're like, no, but he, let me give you an example. A lady was in there because she wanted to argue with her husband and he didn't want to talk about it anymore. So he called the police, and you can even arrest somebody, get arrested for continuing to want to talk, and you're following them in the house. Is that pathetic or what? I think it's pathetic. Another woman got in that class because she wanted to continue talking about something. He was a drunken man all the time, and she wanted to continue talking about something. Maybe he spent all the money on his beer, and they didn't have enough money for something else they really needed to do, maybe a car repair or something, or I don't know, the mortgage. So she's following him because he took off walking out around the block, and she followed him in the car. And then there was medication in the car, and she just threw it at him. Well, neighbors saw and called the police, and then he agreed to saying that, yes, she was trying to run me over. And she was not trying to run her over. She was just following him behind, slowly say, come on, we need to talk about this problem. How many times have we done that? We want to talk. We were begging the person, please, let's resolve this, and they don't want to. So the whole journey of that class, that was very annoying and obnoxious. Oh, there's one more example. You want to talk about something, let's say about the person's ugly attitude, they're cussing all the time, they're cursing at the children, and you're getting upset because he's not listening, and don't touch his stuff though. So then you see a a shelf of all his prized possession DVDs that he pretty much cares about more than his own children, and you get mad, so you just kind of move the bookcase, and all of the DVDs get all scrambled all over the floor, all mixed up, not alphabetical order. And people are like, see, you did that though, that class. But you dumped his DVDs. You're like, yeah, but he's cussing and cursing at the children. So moral of the story was, we all did a little something to make that relationship not work out. Maybe you lacked intimacy, you lacked being intimate in a sensual kind of way, but also in a companionship. And then because you wanted to teach him a lesson, you wanted to punish. Okay? There's those little pebbles. Those are pebbles that can ruin and can escalate it to a mountain high of a pebble of a mountain. Okay? Maybe he cheated and he did that, and we understand that is really heartless and also heartbreaking. But all of these things were heartbreaking. And if we don't change our character, we don't change our attitude, our rotten composure of trying to get revenge or punish the person by withholding affection, which is abuse. If we don't try to heal and truly forgive them for what you did, because marriage takes a lot of forgiving. Okay? If we don't be accountable for what we have done wrong, then we are not more righteous and more holy than the one that you're saying is not going to church or not praying to God as much as you. It doesn't make sense. Okay? And it's a covenant marriage, so it's just with you, your spouse, and your husband. I feel like a lot of marriages, they need a best friend. Oh, the whole work wife, work husband, that's got to stop. Whatever, if people are doing that. And they're like, I need to go. Then you're going out for drinks after work with your work husbands or work wife. Or you're sending texts all the time. And you're talking more to that person that you're just, a friend. And you can connect more with that person. And you're not even speaking to your spouse. These little things have to end. That you cannot be best friends with a man. Can't be best friends with a woman and be married, and a woman can't be best friends with another guy and be married, because it's almost still like an emotional affair, and you're not using that marriage as it's supposed to be. You're not living it depending on them for emotional support. It's cutting corners. So I hope this was insightful. It helps bring some a Proverbs 31 wife is praying for her husband. A Proverbs 31 wife is humble and caring all the time, even when it's hard, and is not easily angered and or contentious. Okay, is not causing a fight and wanting to argue. So think about those tidbits. And right now, Yahusha is dispersing kingdom spouses, so it seems to be needed, advice to be needed, that in order to be in a kingdom marriage, you need to be a kingdom wife. And it takes really, truly acknowledging, because it says, Proverbs 31, a righteous, honorable wife, who can find her? That means it's not really found. It's really hard to find it. Anyways, it can be found in you. If you're willing to do the work and change and heal from your past wounds, you can be a Deborah. You can be a Proverbs 31 wife. It just takes work. It just takes deep into deep work. Shalom.